It is recording. Yeah, looks like it. Good. Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for coming. My name is James, and this is the first episode of the Far Out podcast. How you doing today? Well, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I'm just going to start off by saying I don't fully know what I want this to be, and I don't really know what I'm doing either. I have ideas for this show, this program, this podcast, but I really want to keep it simple. I want to keep it simple in terms of the format, editing required, yada yada. And so while I don't have a firm idea on how I want this to go in terms of the broader details, I want this to just be an avenue for me to have good conversations and to talk about really interesting and important things, both things that are silly and serious, local, not local. And we're just going to go from there. I'm more or less just talking to myself by myself in my apartment right now, but I want to give this a shot. And so here I am, giving it my best shot. And while I don't really know what I want this podcast to turn out in terms of, like, again, the granular minutia of things, what I wanted this episode to be, this first one to be, was an introduction to myself and what I think the blueprint is for this, at least as far as I have it ironed out myself here. So yeah, without further ado, let's get underway with that. So for some of you that are going to hear about this and hopefully listen to this, this is going to be a long time coming because my name is James and I went to school for communications. That's what I graduated with for my major and my minor in sociology. And I love radio. I love the idea of broadcasting. I love the idea of using your voice to channel information, to reach people, to have good conversations, to really sit down and hash things out. And that's what I want this to be. And I think my biggest source of inspiration for this is going to probably be the Joe Rogan podcast, which, people are going to hear that and go, oh my gosh, of course. It's like a guy starting to make music and he says, oh, I want to be like the Beatles. I want to be like Justin Bieber, which, fair. Okay, to be fair, the idea that I want to be like Joe Rogan is not a unique idea because he's one of the biggest, best to ever do it. But Joe Rogan's an interesting guy because there's not a lot of overlap in how him and I think. Like, he's into mixed martial arts and he does a lot of drugs and he believes a lot of really wacky and crazy and interesting things. And, God bless him. But the reason why I like Joe Rogan so much is because he has on incredible guests, from doctors to scientists to actors to politicians. I mean, he had on freaking presidential candidates in the 2024 election. He had on Donald Trump and JD Vance. I mean, this guy, you know, he knows how to control the room. He knows how to get these incredible, genuine, long conversations out of people, and that's something that I want this to be. I want the Far Out podcast to be that. I want it to be an area where we can talk about a whole number of things with hopefully a whole lot of different people and just be another source of information. But I mean, look, I'm going to be honest. Like, I'm not breaking any ground, and I'm late to the party because everyone and their mother has a podcast, and here I come along, just another dude with a microphone and a dream, but it's the truth. I mean, like I said, I went to school for broadcasting, and while I haven't pursued that in my professional career, I've had people, but humbly, I might add, I've had people say, you have a great voice, you should pursue it. At the very least, you should start a podcast. And I agreed with them because I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts more than I listen to actual music. But the part of the reason why I was too afraid to actually do that was because I wasn't sure of the tech side of things. I wasn't sure how to upload to Spotify, to Apple, like I have an Android phone. I have a Galaxy. I'm not connected to Apple in any way. So I don't know if I even can upload my stuff to Apple or not. Like, I literally don't know how that works. But then I was listening to another podcast, which is the It's called Rebel Force Radio, which is a Star Wars podcast because I love Star Wars. And what's great about them is that they upload in standard typical podcast form, but then they also have a YouTube channel, and what they do is they will upload either entire episodes or snippets of episodes with just the audio against a still background. And I thought, why didn't I think of that sooner? YouTube is the easiest thing in the world. I can easily just throw up a still image and talk into a microphone and hopefully get something good out of it. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I have this microphone that was given to me by a friend when it was funny, going back to my time at college. Uh, well, I don't want to I don't want to have word salad and word vomit. I want to try to give context to all this stuff. So when I went to school, I went to a college in North Dakota. That's where I live. And me name dropping my location, my home, will become important because over the course of this, I want to talk about my state. I want to talk about the US. I want to talk about, things happening across the country, but from my perspective as being a Midwestern guy. And I also, want to just talk about whatever comes to mind. And a lot of people I think I'll have on, at least to start, will be friends and neighbors. And so they'll also talk about this stuff, these subjects from a North Dakota Midwestern point of view and also an accent. But yeah, but like, okay, so I got to contain myself here. Because again, this is my first attempt here, and I'm really trying to I'm trying to keep this genuine, but like, I don't really have my own thoughts organized. But in addition to being like Joe Rogan, his stuff is incredibly simple. But he has a guy named Jamie who irons out all the details and gets the editing done and stuff like that. I don't have that. It's just me, my mic, and just sitting in my apartment. And so I want this to be done with as little editing as possible, at least to start, because I don't know how to do any of this stuff. So anything you might hear from my phone beeping to me rambling to me taking a drink of something, it's all there. I'm not going to take it out because it's raw and it's real, man. It's the genuine, effect, but it's really just me not knowing how to do all this stuff. But getting back to the microphone, the actual mic I'm talking into right now, uh, this was given to me by a friend in college who recognized that I wanted to get into podcasting and into radio and stuff like that. And he said, we should do a podcast. And I said, great, let's do it. And that ended up not happening because he pursued other career avenues and he moved, and we don't talk very often as we used to. But before he moved, while we were still at college together, he gave me a microphone. And he was like, this thing works. I think you'll get good use out of it. I want you to use it. Go and follow your dream. And I said, great. And despite him being a good friend and all that stuff, and despite the words of encouragement, I did not listen to him. This mic sat in a box for 3 years, and now I'm finally picking it up and plugging it in. And thank Christ, it's as simple as it is. Shout out to John. That's his name, by the way. It's remarkably simple. It's just the little itty bitty thing on a tripod stand with a USB cable, and I just plugged it into my computer, my laptop, and whoop whoop, that's that. And now we're going. And my computer is also really simple as well too. So I'm just starting out, but the first step in doing a lot of things is the hardest. Hence why it took me years to even get the gall to do this stuff. But yeah, so let's see. In terms of introductions for myself, I got the radio stuff out of the way, but I also want to give a little bit of a teaser for who I am as a person. Let's see. I love movies. That's something I'll want to talk about with people I mean, I could talk about movies for a long, long time and just entertainment and the business. I could go on about that. I love quoting movies as well. I know a lot about sharks. I love sports. I love Minnesota sports specifically. Again, pulling the location in because, look, North Dakota is a cool state, but like, well, actually, it's not, it's not cool. but it's simple and it's healthy and it's friendly, and I really like that about this place that I call home, this state. But what we do have in terms of coolness is everything around us. We got Minnesota one way, Canada another way, South Dakota another way, Montana another way, and then we're just the dusty flat pit stop in the middle of all that. But if you're in North Dakota and you're looking for a team to follow that's local, you have to go to Minnesota to get your start. We got Twins baseball, Vikings football, Wild hockey, Timberwolves basketball, and I could go on about Minnesota sports for a little bit here too, because at the time of this recording, this is on a Sunday, the Vikings just got done playing the Chicago Bears, and we won, but by golly, we shouldn't have. And actually, at the time that I'm talking into the mic and recording, I'm still in all my Vikings gear because I was out at the bar watching the game and whatnot. So yeah, I got my sweatshirt on, my hat, and my beanie. Yes, I'm wearing two hats simultaneously for the team that I appreciate. But okay, let me try to pick a starting point here. And actually, you know what? I think that, well, okay. So I named off some things that I like and some things that I don't like. I guess I could talk about those too. But that's kind of awkward. I mean, like, do I get as surface level as, oh, I don't like the Packers, or do I get as deep as, like, I don't like high taxes? But then again, that's something I want this podcast to be as well. I want this to be a place where people can come and talk about silly stuff, serious stuff, large scale topics, small scale topics, and then if they want, they can get incredibly deep. Like, I could easily talk about my own life and how I'm doing great in some areas and how I'm not doing great in other areas. But like, you don't know me from Adam or Eve, and I'm just another dude. So I gotta break the glass here a little bit, but yeah. And I don't know how long I want this to be either. I don't know how long I actually want this individual episode to be. It could be 10 minutes long. It could be 10 hours long. I'm not sure. I'm just gonna kind of go until I feel I've reached a good stopping point, because again, this is my first attempt. So yeah, but yeah, at the time of this recording, the Vikings beat the Chicago Bears in ugly fashion. Look, I like this team, and I'm new to the team as well. I became a Vikings fan in 2022, and I found them on a whim. That was the year where we started the season by beating the Green Bay Packers, our rivals, and having seen that happen, that sparked me to go get a new Vikings hat. And the last time I got a Vikings hat, and I wasn't even a fan then, I was really more or less just kind of a social family fan, because my family likes the Vikings. And so just by extension, I also liked them. But I didn't know anything about football or the sport, anything like that back then. So, but anyway, I'm watching football with my dad. Started this season for the Vikings in 2022. We beat Green Bay, and that was like the first domino to fall. But it was kind of slow falling. But anyway, I go out and I buy a hat, and the last time I bought a hat was during the Adrian Peterson and Percy Harvin era. So we're talking years and years and years ago. But I'm like, hey, we weren't supposed to win. We did. It was a fun game. It's the rivals. Yeah, I'm gonna take a sip of the purple Kool-Aid. And boy, did I chose a great time to become a Vikings fan, because I believe in 2022 we won 12 or 13 games with Kirky McClutcherton in his string of fourth quarter comebacks. And it was a great season. And while I got to see the first game of the season where we beat the Packers, and that was fun, the game that made me a fan, a genuine fan, where I drank the purple Kool-Aid, and I look forward to Purple Rain, and all this stuff, was the game against the Buffalo Bills, where it was the fourth quarter. We were down and Kirk Cousins threw to Justin Jefferson, fourth quarter, I believe, fourth quarter, fourth down. And this play we were running wasn't for the end zone. It wasn't to tie the game. Wasn't to take the lead. It was just to get the ball downfield, just to have a chance at continuing to play, for continuing to compete. It was fourth and long. Kirk steps back. He's getting pressured. And he throws to a young guy named Justin Jefferson, who I didn't know at the time was just this stud Muffin McGee, you know, top 3 wide receiver in the league, arguably top 1, at the least top 5. And I watched Kirk Cousins throw this ball, and Justin Jefferson, catches it in like double, triple coverage, leaping catch, leans back, one hand, and he catches the head of the ball. It's not even the body. He didn't even get like the gripper, the white threads. He caught the head right in the palm of his hand. And it was just to keep the game alive, and we did. We went on, and I remember there was some reason we got downfield, and I think we got stopped at the goal line. I think Buffalo got the ball back. For whatever reason, they got the ball back at like the 1 yard line, and Josh Allen, who is a stud McMuffin in of himself. I mean, that guy's superhuman. He's the QB of the Bills. He's not supposed to lose. He's up there with Patrick Mahomes. He takes the ball at the 1 yard line, fumbles the snap. We recover the ball, and we win because we scored. We grab the ball in the same motion. We push it over the end zone, or into the end zone over that 1 yard line, and we scored and we won. So we came back in the fourth quarter, kept the game alive with a miracle catch by JJ, going fourth and long, and we ended up beating the Buffalo Bills, which at the time of this recording, the freaking Kansas City Chiefs are going on a freaking tear across the league, and one of the only teams to have beaten them, I think the only one to have beaten them now, is the Bills. Okay, Josh Allen went throw for throw with Patty Mahomes and beat him. Okay, we beat the Chiefs, or they beat the Chiefs. We beat the Bills. Do the math. So that was a great season. Now in 2024, we're playing quarterback roulette after we played that last year too, because last year we had Josh Dobbs, Nick Mullins, some other guy, I think. And now we've rested on Sam Darnold, Slinging Sammy, Sam the Man Darnold Dimes, as Twitter likes to call him. And the Vikings are 9-2. We're 9-2. Now that can be debatable because, again, I don't think we should have won the Chicago game, but we did. But it's funny. We left Kirk Cousins, who was a proven veteran QB. He goes off to the Atlanta Falcons. The reason why was because he wanted this insane amount of money, which the Vikings didn't want to pay, even though he was a really good QB. And I'll defend that. He is a good QB. But the Vikings didn't want to pay him. He goes to Atlanta, makes a stupid amount of money. He gets Tom Brady money. And he's a good QB. He's not Tom Brady good, but whatever. And so then we draft this young guy named J.J. McCarthy, a new hope, the Luke Skywalker. He's going to come in and save our team and lead us to the promised land. And then in the preseason for the 2024 season, he blows his leg out for the season. And so we pick up Sam Darnold, who, if you don't know who Sam Darnold was before then, that's okay because he was a professional backup at best. He also played quarterback roulette because he jumped around from the 49ers to the Jets to Panthers, I think, and then now to the Vikings. And all throughout that time, he was a bad QB. He had a horrible... Not horrible. He had bad stats compared to the league. And we all kind of thought, as Vikings fans, that the Vikings were going to mail it in this year. Which, to be fair, I would have understood it. I don't want them to. I think every year we should compete like it's the last chance we have to win that trophy, to win the Super Bowl. But, JJ, Justin Jefferson, the stud of the team, wasn't re-signed. He was going to cost a lot of money. We just lost our star quarterback, and we go out and we get this scrappy guy, uh, you know, who's been bouncing around from teams. And we all went, okay, fine, whatever. No one will believe this because this sounds like revisionist history, but no one will believe this. But it's true, and my dad is a witness, which again is a biased source because it's my dad, but it's true, and I stand by it. I had faith in Darnold. I wasn't saying he was going to be great. I didn't think he was going to lead us to the record that we have today, but I was confident in his ability, whereas most people I thought were throwing him under the bus. The reason why is because when he was in Carolina with the Panthers, I thought he did a pretty okay job. So whatever. He comes here, expectations are low, and now we're going 9-2, but we're winning ugly matches. Like, I can't think back to every week, but like week 1, I know is against the Giants. Okay, well, the New York Giants are the New York Giants. I mean, sorry to all my New York listeners, and sorry to all the Giants fans across the world, but I mean, come on, your team is not that good this year. I mean, let's just be real. You gotta wake up and smell the roses. So that one was a gimme. But then we went on this little run where we beat the 49ers. We beat the Packers. We held our own against the Lions and we lost. But the Lions, again, at the time of this recording, they're on a generational run. I mean, they're, I think, 10-1, 11-1. And they're going to go to the Super Bowl, which is crazy to think about because, so Vikings fans have never experienced the team winning a Super Bowl, which is sad. But what's even more sad is that the Detroit Lions have never even gone to a Super Bowl. You can look that up. You can fact check that. Google it. The Minnesota Vikings have had the privilege of going to the Super Bowl multiple times and competing. We've been in that arena. We've had our shots. It's been a long time, but we've had them. Detroit's never had them. And now you got Jared Goff, who I call Jared Goof, because every time I look at him, it seems like he's falling down. By the way, he fell down this week in the NFL. I saw him while I was watching the Vikings game. He took a snap, and he went outside the pocket. His legs went in the air, and he fell down on the ground. He didn't get tackled or nothing. He just fell. So I call him Jared Goof because he does stuff like that. But regardless, the dude's playing like his life depends on it. He's just going off. So he's going to take that team to the Super Bowl. And if the Vikings don't go, I'm going to root for Detroit all day long because they're the underdog's underdog. No one thought they would go on this run. But getting back to the Vikings, no one thought we'd go on this run either. But no one's talking about us because Sling and Sammy will yo-yo from having a great game to a horrible game. He'll throw 3 interceptions against the Jaguars, which they're also a dumpster team. Pardon my Jacksonville fans, who are listening. A shout out to you, but like, you guys aren't that good either. But we threw 3 interceptions against the Jaguars and the sky fell, and we bounced back and whatnot. But Darnold keeps bouncing back and forth and back and forth. And so now there's this talk that JJ McCarthy's coming off this leg injury. I think he blew his MCL or ACL. So he's out for the year. I mean, he's casted up. He's not practicing, running, anything like that. But there's this talk that come 2025, he's going to be the prodigal son. He's going to come out in a purple uniform and lead us to the Super Bowl. I'm not convinced of that because he might be injury prone again. So now there's this chatter that maybe we should re-sign Darnold, which I'm not opposed to. But he's playing at the highest level of excellence he's ever played at in his entire career. And we only signed him to a 1-year deal. So after this season, he could go around the NFL and demand huge contracts, which as he should. He can make generational money the same way Kirk Cousins did. I don't think the Vikings are going to pay him generational money, nor should they, because he's good, but he's not great. So the problem is, though, is that, and this is why I want to talk about this, was that our QB future is uncertain. Yes, we have J.J. McCarthy under lock and key for contract, but he's not proven. Darnold is proven-ish, but he's going to cost a lot of money. So what do we do? Well, Let's go back to New York, baby. Not the Giants. Let's look a little farther across the pond. There is trouble in Jetsville, USA. The New York Jets, who are also a dumpster fire of a team right now. They lost their head coach, their general manager, and are currently being led into oblivion by an aging Aaron Rodgers, who I like Rodgers. I think he's a cool dude. I think he's an interesting interview. He clearly has talent. Is he old? Yes. But with age, excuse me, I just burped. But with age comes skill and wisdom. And he was on the Packers for the longest time. He led the Packers, to glory and fame and the whole deal. And then he got bored, so he left. And then he went to the Jets, and he's not doing that for the Jets now. He's imploding, and there's trouble with him in the locker room, him and the staff. Supposedly, he was someone who wanted that head coach to get fired, hence the coach got fired. And the Jets have Rodgers under contract as well. I believe he signed a 2 or 3 year deal. No, he might have even signed more because he also blew his leg last year. He's coming back. So anyway, the Jets gave him a big lucrative contract, a lot of money, a lot of time. But now there's talk that he wants out of the organization and that the Jets want him out as the QB because they're not working together. The Jets are spiraling. Rodgers is not a leader. He's having issues with other players. And, again, God bless him. But every time, if you watched Rodgers play, every time he makes a mistake, throws it incomplete, someone drops the pass, whatever, he always looks into the camera like he's on The Office, and he gives this look of like, what do you expect me to do? It's their fault. He gives this look that's like he's shifting blame, and people are seeing that. His teammates are seeing that. They think he's just being this old man who can do no wrong. And so Rodgers wants out of the Jets is the word. The Jets want Rodgers out. Where could Rodgers go next? You guessed it. I think he could go to the Minnesota Vikings. And people are going to rake me over the coals for this, but I think there is some truth to it. But regardless if he'd be a good fit for the team, and that's really debatable, you have to look at the history here because let's go back even further. You have Brett Favre, who also led the Packers to fame and glory. He got bored, so he left. Where does he go? Brett Favre went to the Jets. After his time with the Packers, he goes to the Jets. He goes to the Jets. He implodes. Where does he end up? The Vikings. Then he goes on a good run with the Vikings for a little bit, nearly takes us to the Super Bowl, and then doesn't. And he's like, I'm old, I'm done. Just saying, man. History doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it rhymes. Brett Favre, Packer, Jets, Vikings. Rodgers, Packers, Jets, Vikings to be determined. Do I want that to happen for my franchise? No, I don't. Just from a realistic, tactical standpoint, no. I don't think Rodgers would be a good fit here. I think he'd be an ego coming in when we follow Minnesota, North Dakota nice. There was a survey that came out, I think last year, that said that among NFL players who go to the Viking Stadium when they're playing away games, so when they're playing at home in US Bank, when they're playing at the Minnesota home at US Bank, they're coming here from their homes. There was the survey that came out that they found the stadium to be one of the nicest, the cleanest, the most player friendly. So can we win a Super Bowl? No. Can the Vikings absolutely accommodate you to the nines? Absolutely. So to have Rodgers come in and be this ego and say it's my way or the highway, he's going to get the highway. But Rodgers knows this is his last shot in the NFL. He has maybe 1-2 years left, and I don't know who's going to take him. The Giants could take him. He could stay in New York because the Giants need help. But this is by no means a football podcast, and it's certainly not an Aaron Rodgers podcast. But again, I live in North Dakota. Anything cool? You have to go outside of North Dakota. For my sports, I go to Minnesota, so we're talking about Minnesota sports for a bit. But how crazy would it be if twice two QBs follow the same trajectory again? Green Bay Packers, New York Jets, Minnesota Vikings. Could happen. And I want it to happen for that alone. Would it be good for the team? No. But would it be funny? Yes. And that's worth it. Okay, moving on. What else should we talk about? What else should we talk about? Um, I said some things that I like, and again, I talked a little bit about how I want this to be like Joe Rogan, and hopefully I can have on good guests. I don't know when that's going to be, but if I can give you a little more of a peek behind the curtain here, in a perfect world, I would love this to be a weekly podcast. I don't know if it will be to start. I think if it's just me to start, just me doing what I'm doing now, it's going to be probably bi-monthly. No, bi-weekly, excuse me. Uh, 2 episodes a month, one every 2 weeks is what I mean. So I think if I'm doing it just by myself, it probably would be every 2 weeks. If I get a guest, maybe it'd also be every two weeks as well. I could also see it coming out once a month. Because again, ideally I want it to be once a week. I want to get on this solid schedule of releasing, but I don't know how that's going to go. So I'm going to try for once a week, but it wouldn't shock me. I don't want anyone else to be shocked if it's every 2 weeks or every month. But I'm going to figure it out as I go, and we'll just see what happens. Funny enough, though, I wasn't intending to start this today. I actually wanted to start this on Monday, tomorrow. But, here I am. I wanted to talk about the Vikings. And so there's that. But let's see. What else do I want to talk about? To tell you about the name, the Far Out podcast. That name comes from me saying far out. I like that saying. And I know it sounds like I'm a hipster doofus from California. Like, oh, far out, man. That's totally tubular. Past the nachos, my guy. But I like the saying. I heard it somewhere a couple of years ago. I think a friend said it. I heard it somewhere in a movie. And I thought, that's a good saying. We should bring that back. And we looked at I looked at, just the posters you see in the dentist office and stuff that say, be the change you want to be. And I went, I will. I'll be the change I want to be. I'm going to bring it back. Follow my lead. And so, so I'm bringing back the far out phraseology. And I say that for everything. So I'm sure over the course of this show, I will eventually talk about something, or I'll be talking to someone about something, and I'll say like, "Oh, that's far out, man," and I don't mean it to sound like an idiot. I mean it genuinely. I say it a lot, so I figured, you know, branding is important. So there's that. So yes, this is the Far Out podcast, and we're just gonna see how this goes. What I'm not married to the name though. Let's be clear. If nobody likes it, then it's fine. I'll change it. But for right now, I like it. What I don't like about it though is if you look at my YouTube profile, the icon of this show is the actual logo that says the Far Out Podcast, which I could not get formatted properly to show the whole thing inside of the little circle icon. But again, I'm not technically savvy. But I like to think I could talk good enough. Problem though with that logo, that image, that piece of art, quote unquote art, is that it's AI generated. I will fully admit that. And oh my gosh, I could get into the weeds on this too. This could be something we could talk about for a long, long time. But I didn't know how to do anything in terms of art. I want there to be a cool, unique piece of cover art for this podcast. I want there to be intro music. I want there to be bumper music in case I need to take a break. But I didn't know how to make any of that. I didn't know the legality of it either. I didn't know, copyrights and stuff like that. And I don't know anyone who's proficient in digital art. And so, sadly, reluctantly, hypocritically, I went to an app that can make AI art, and it's getting the job done for now. But trust me, whatever this ends up being, I do not want AI art in my stuff because I think it's gross and it's cheap and there's no actual authenticity to it. But again, it's serving its purpose for me right now because I don't know how to do any of this stuff. So yes, sadly, the art, the cover for the Far Out podcast is AI generated. But again, that can get us into a whole other, thing of weeds here about what's going to come of that in our lifetime. Is it art? Is it not? Should we allow it? Should we not? What kind of world does that make for us? Is this going to be the Terminator? Are we now counting down the clock, or is this simply just a way for people to get by making just stupid stuff? I don't know, because the issues with AI is that it's getting better each and every iteration, and now they're making faces. You can make someone say something that they didn't say. You can modulate voices. It's crazy, and again, I don't want it in my life anywhere, but in 2024, the year of our Lord, so I'm trying to use it as minimally as possible. Eventually, I'll get it out. I will. I will get it out of there. But for right now, this is what I got. Let's see. That honestly, that's a good thing that I don't like, because I named off some things that I like, and just over the course of this show, you'll find out more things about me. The host who knows the most. I know a thing or two about some stuff and some junk. But there are some things I don't like. AI being one of them. But okay. You want to know something that really, truly grinds my gears nowadays, and it has to do with social media. Shocking. Social media is just a bucket of crap. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Twitter and stuff, and even this is a form of social media because I'm throwing it up on YouTube. So I can't bite the hand that feeds it. But uh, breaking news, But the thing I really don't like about social media nowadays is, and this is going to sound like a big thing, but I'm going to clarify it because I don't mean to get so global with this. Is there is this campaign of self censorship happening throughout social media, and I don't mean the censorship that's like actually like criminal and not good and morally incorrect. I'm not talking about the stuff we hear about in the news and in other countries, and also in America a little bit too. I'm talking about these people who spend all day, all night online, who are chronically online, and they play to the algorithm. They play to get the most views, the most interactions, so on and so forth. So what I'm talking about is that when there's text of what someone wants to say or has said, if there are certain words, there will be selective editing of these words. And a great example of this is, let's say, I don't know, let's say there's a tweet on Twitter, and I'm not calling that X. I like Elon Musk, I do, but that's the stupidest name I've ever heard. I know he made, SpaceX and Tesla and all that stuff, but I mean, and again, as I said earlier, branding is important, but like, you have Twitter and you go to X. I mean, you know what? We're going to talk about that a little bit too. Before I get to the big thing about censorship, let me take a sidebar here. Let me take a side street for Twitter. Like Elon Musk, I think he's awesome. I think he's doing the world many great services. The dude wants to send us to Mars. Okay, like, you can agree or disagree with that. At the very least, it's very romantic. It's a cool idea. It's explorative. Like, hoorah. But okay, and I could talk about him for a long time too. But Elon Musk buys Twitter, which was a net good for the site because there was a lot of garbage and a lot of trafficking and oversight that was happening on here that wasn't making it a free app. And let me just clarify this too. I'm a conservative. I just lost half my audience. I lost half of 4 people probably, but it's the truth. I'm a conservative and I'm a Christian. I just lost another one of the 2 remaining. Shout out to my mom, who's the only listener probably. Love you, Mom. Yeah, I'm a Christian conservative. So if that, you know, grinds your gears, I'm sorry to hear that, but I hope you listen. I hope you tune in. And very similarly to how I want to have on a large pantheon of guests like Joe Rogan, I'll have on anyone, which I know sounds basic and bland, but it's true. Rogan has on people he agrees with, disagrees with, yada yada. And again, he cultivates these amazing conversations. He had on Donald Trump, who was a presidential candidate, and he offered his platform to Kamala Harris. Respectfully, speaking is not her strong suit. But while a lot of people wanted her to go on there for the dunking, the quote unquote dunking of watching her stutter into oblivion and talk in circles, I wanted her to go on there because I thought if anyone could pull out some form of coherence from her, it would have been him. Because again, I think he's just amazing. But again, I don't mean to go down all these side streets. So yeah, I went from censorship to Elon Musk to Twitter. Okay, so let me back it up to Twitter. So Elon Musk buys Twitter and he renames it to X. I think this is a freaking travesty because Twitter was unique. It was fun. Everyone knew it. And it had great branding before the X thing. Because here's the thing about Twitter. I don't think people realize this. It's something you look at and you just never put the pieces together. It's called Twitter. Their logo is a bird. What do birds do? They go tweet. Okay, there you go. When you posted a tweet, when you wanted to write a tweet, you hit the right icon. What does that icon look like? A quill. What is a quill made of? A bird's feather, because it's Twitter, the Twitter bird. Okay? We're staying on brand here. When you make a new profile, before you do anything else, when you make a new profile, your starting icon is an egg because you're hatching. Okay? Amazing. And the home button, when you want to go back to your profile or reset your feed or just the home button, it looked like a birdhouse. It was all on brand. It was cool. It was fun. Now it's not. You have X and it's black and it's flat and it's bland. Tweets are not called tweets anymore. They're called posts. It's dumb. I like Musk. He's smart. He's infinitely smarter than me. He could, practice having less kids out of wedlock, but besides that, he's smarter than me in every facet. This was not a smart plan for him when it came to rebranding. I agree he should have bought Twitter, and I'm glad he did. I am happy he bought Twitter, just to be clear. But I'm not happy with the rebranding. And yeah, I mean, again, the guy has like 38 kids. I mean, fill out my guy, or marry him, like find yourself a wife and whatnot. But whatever, he's a billionaire, and he's got stuff to do. And he's worried about the human population. That's literally why he says he has so many kids, is because he's worried about population decline. Which, okay, fine, good, whatever. Yes, you are technically increasing the population by having 38 kids. But you're not being the best father you can be to any of them because, again, you're a billionaire who runs like 8 companies. And surprise, surprise, children need fathers when they grow up. And so I guess it's cool, air quotes, cool that Musk is doing this, but he's not being a good father, but, whatever, whatever. I don't mean to go on this tangent about him, but we're here. Another thing about Musk, though, is that, again, with him and he's worried about human civilization declining, is that he wants to take people to Mars, which, again, I think is a very romantic, a very cool idea, and I support it. I do. But here's the thing. He's coming at this from a survival type mindset. We went to the moon back in the 60s during the JFK administration. Also in kind of terms of survival, because that was during the Cold War with Russia. By the way, that's like my favorite time period. I could also talk about the Cold War endlessly. That and the time of Rome, I really, really appreciate. I really like those times. I think those are just fascinating times to talk about. And I'm sure we will talk about that over the course of this show. But So we went to the moon, yes, for kind of survival, because again, there was this thought of nuclear war, which is not traditional war. It's that nuclear is a war of annihilation. And Musk is now looking at Mars in terms of survival, but he's coming at it from a mindset of that eventually the world will just give out on us. I think that's what he's talking about. I could be wrong. I don't know. He has not returned my texts, but whatever. Um, so he's coming at it from humans need to be a multi-planet civilization. Okay, that's cool, romantic, sci-fi. I'm here. Let's go. My issue is that I think he's kind of jumping the gun. Okay, now if I was Musk, if I had all the money, all the drive, all the ability to send people off of Earth permanently, I would go to the moon. I would start there for a lot of reasons. One, we've been there before. We know we can do it. Gasp to all the people who don't think we went to the moon. We did. We did go there. Okay. So, put that in your iPad and smoke it. We did go there and whatnot. So we've been there before many times. We know we can get there. Whereas with Mars, we haven't. Completely uncharted territory, which again, that's part of the appeal, is a new frontier. You know, space, the final frontier, in the words of Spock and Captain Kirk. I'm sure Musk will probably make one of his rockets and call it the Enterprise or something like that. But the problem though is that we've been to the moon. We know how to get there. It's right there. But that's the biggest point, is that it's right there. Going to Mars is cool. Building bases on Mars is cool. The problem though is that it takes us a long time to get there. And again, I'm not a scientist or an astronaut or anything like that. I think it takes us weeks, maybe even months. It takes us a long time to get there. So, okay, let's walk this through. We send people to Mars. They get there, they build their base, and they eat jambalaya for their first meal. Hoorah. Okay, then they get a week or a month into their civilization creation, and one of them gets hurt, and they don't have the medical supplies necessary to fix said issue. So they call NASA, the Martians, as you call them. They call NASA and they say, "Hi, Houston, we have a problem." "What's that, Martian?" "What you see is Jeff. He took a fall and he broke his leg, and we don't have the ability to fix it. Can you send us your best doctor with medical supplies to help him?" "Absolutely. You're our brightest and our best. We will get someone to you ASAP. This is the top of the list. He treated the president. He's on his way. He'll be there in 6 weeks, though." Excuse me? Yeah, he'll be there in 6 weeks. So it's like, great. Whereas with the moon, it doesn't take us that long to get there. Okay? If Jeff falls and breaks his leg, there's a much better chance of us getting to him quicker with better stuff and a better response time if we go to the moon. We can build lunar bases. I saw this cool thing about us trying to build bases under the surface of the moon. Like, there's all these tunnels made by these craters, or made in tandem with these craters. Like, I think it'd be the bee's knees to start on the moon, then go to Mars. But no, Musk wants to be fancy or something like that. So I'm for him going to Mars, but I think he's just kind of making it hard on himself. Because again, the moon's right there. We can get there, no problem. But whatever. So again, if I was in charge, I would put people on the moon first, not Mars. We'd go to Mars second, and whatnot. Let's see. What else I want to talk to you about? Um, I actually want to go back to Minnesota for a bit, because just prior, just yesterday, I was in Minneapolis. Um, and I actually went there on a whim, because I had an opportunity to do some stuff, and I'll tell you about that. Because again, I want this podcast to be kind of revealing, kind of raw. I don't want to give you just this fluff, cakey version of stuff. Like, I want it to be personal and real because I want my guests, hopefully my guests, to be personal and real with me if they feel in the moment they can be. And so I want to offer that to you guys as well. So, as I said before, I love movies. I could quote movies all day. I could talk to you about them. I could talk to you about behind the scenes stuff. I know like studios, the names of people who run the studios. I know the names of filmmakers. I know scripts. I actually have scripts, like literal paper scripts that I've read before. I like reading movie scripts, so I'm that kind of a nerd. And I'm a, I'm even more of a nerd because I drove to Minneapolis to watch a movie. Yes, I did. But the story of how I got to Minneapolis actually starts back in the great city of Kansas City. So let's take a trip. Take a trip with me, shall you? I was in Kansas City, home of the Chiefs and the Kansas City Royals. To Yeah, I was in Kansas City. I was with my father. It was around the time of Christmas, I think. I might have even seen my grandmother. I can't remember. But I was with my dad, and we wanted to go to the movies. We went to a movie theater chain called B&B, like bed and breakfast. I don't know why it's called that, but whatever. It's called B&B Theaters. It was nice. I enjoyed it. Um, and we saw the movie Devotion. Yes, it was Devotion, which is a World War II movie that centers around pilots. Funny enough, let's go down a side street on that movie. Um, that movie stars Glenn Powell. If you don't know who Glenn Powell was, he was in Top Gun Maverick. He was Hangman in that movie. One of my favorite movies of all time. Um, I saw that 5 times in theaters, by the way. Again, I'm that kind of a film fan to where if I like a movie enough, I will go back multiple times to see it. And I saw that 5 times in theaters. Uh, but Glenn Powell, he made 2 movies in the span of like 2 years where he plays pilots. He was in Top Gun Maverick, modern day pilot, and then he was in Devotion as a World War II pilot. I mean, good for him. He knows where the bread is buttered, and he plays a great pilot. But like, it's just kind of odd, that he would do that. But hey, he plays a great pilot. So if he wants to go make a Top Gun 3, which actually, by the way, I've heard that that's happening. I've heard Top Gun 3 is happening. It could just be conjecture online, like everything else. But Top Gun Maverick made like 1.4 billion dollars, billion with an illion dollars. And that was at a time when movies weren't doing well, theaters weren't doing well because of COVID and stuff like that. And here comes Tom Cruise. He's saving the day alongside Glenn Powell. They're bringing people back to the theater. So it made all this money and it had all this fanfare. It was seen as this triumphant return to an art form, to the cinema. And when you get that kind of lightning in a bottle, no dir, the studio thinks, let's do it again. One more. How about one more billion, please? So I've heard Top Gun 3's in the works. Glenn Powell has talked about it. So like there's a tangibility to it. It's not just an idea on a whiteboard. I think there's something there. There might be a script, I'm not sure. Um, so despite my love of Top Gun Maverick, I hope they don't make a third one because Maverick ends so perfectly. Tom Cruise literally flies off into the sunset in that movie. You can't get a better ending. Plus, as a bonus, he had Jennifer Connelly flying co-pilot. I mean, come on now. Like, if I get Jennifer Connelly in my plane with me, I mean, that's a wrap. No, she's awesome. I love her. So yeah, you can't get much better than that. Flying off into the sunset with Jennifer Connelly. I mean, hello. But yeah, there's this talk about a Top Gun 3 and whatnot. Um, if it happens, I hope Joseph Kosinski, who made the movie, comes back to make it. He made Top Gun Maverick. He also made a movie that's underrated as heck called Tron Legacy, which is awesome. And it's visually gorgeous and moving and the whole deal. Not very actiony, but it's kind of like a glass of wine. It's meant to be taken more slow and just enjoyed, but it's a visual feast, and that's on Disney Plus, the Disney Plus as I call it, Tron Legacy. And he's also making another movie coming out next year, 2025, called F1, which is essentially Top Gun Maverick just with race cars. That has Brad Pitt in the driver's seat of this F1 car, and I think he's the older race car driver teaching a new kid how to drive, similar to Top Gun Maverick, where Tom Cruise is the older pilot teaching new pilots how to fly. Um, but Apple gave him a blank check. That thing has a production budget of like 200 million plus. So, I mean, God bless him. I mean, if he can hit a home run, no, if he can hit a grand slam, not a home run, a grand slam like he did with Maverick, I mean, yeah, good golly, Miss Molly. Give him the keys to the car, to the F1 car. But, well, okay, so anyway, uh, where was I? I was in Kansas City, thank you. I saw Devotion with my dad. When we go to the theater and we sit down in our seats, they're in those Gucci reclining seats that kick out the feet in the back of the head, and they got the heated bottoms and stuff like that. But my seat did not work. My dad very politely and respectfully goes to the cashier and says, one of the seats doesn't work," which again wasn't a big deal. It really wasn't, because I don't always like to recline when I see a movie, but whatever. But they gave us free passes, and they expired. These passes expired in December of this year, and they were for any B&B theater, any movie format that wasn't super duper mega awesome. It was standard 3D stuff like that. You couldn't get the highest format. But my tickets expired. This pass expired this December, and living in North Dakota, we can get really brutal winters. Thankfully, we haven't so far, but it just kind of arrived like now. At least the snow did, not the brutality. That's coming. Uh, but I thought, shoot, this is going to expire in December. The closest B&B theater is in Minneapolis in the Mall of America. Um, so to use this pass, I should go sooner rather than later. And so, in essence, I drove 4 hours to Minneapolis to use a movie theater coupon. Because that's the kind of film nut, film nerd I am. And boy, what a trip that was. Because I love driving, so the drive alone is worth it. Um, does it cost a lot of money? It can. Gas is not cheap. Thanks, Biden, and whatnot. But I budget for it and whatnot. So it was no problem to me. And plus, I wanted to get out of town for a bit. So yeah, 4 hour drive one way to Minneapolis, see a movie and come back. That's a great time to clear my head and think and stuff. Also, by the way, that's a funny note too. I got the idea for the Far Out podcast on the return trip from Minneapolis yesterday. I was driving and I was thinking, I'm going to do it. I'm going to really do it. So had I not gone to Minneapolis to redeem that coupon, I might not have started this podcast, meaning you might not be listening to me now. Thank you to listeners. So I drive to Minneapolis to the Mall of America, and uh, I see Gladiator 2 at the B&B theater in the mall, and I love Gladiator, that first one with Russell Crowe, directed by Ridley Scott, came out in the year 2000, I believe. Funny enough, Gladiator is not only a great movie, but it's one of those rare movies where it's a total crowd pleaser in the sense that it did a lot of work at the box office. It has a good fan base, but it also won Best Picture. It won a lot of Oscars, which you don't see a lot of cross pollination with that. Normally when it comes to the Oscars, you get these artsy dartsy weirdo movies that no one sees, and then the stuff that everyone sees, they don't get nominated for these awards. Except there is the occasional crossover, like with Avatar, Titanic, Lord of the Rings, um, you know. But Gladiator was another one that kind of just came out of nowhere for everyone, and it was a big hit. And so, 24 years later, good, sure, they decided to do Gladiator 2, um, with Pedro Pascal, Mr. Mandalorian. Spoiler: Pedro Pascal is the guy underneath the suit of armor in the Mandalorian, and then got Denzel Washington, Mr. Training Day himself. I'm surgical with this thing, as he holds the shotgun, oh man. I love Training Day. I love Denzel. He's the man, just just blasting dudes with that shotgun. Great movie. Um, and whatnot. So yeah, so I go see Gladiator 2, and it's good. It's good, and what I like it. In fact, I intend to see it again because I like it that much. Um, but the problem though is that Gladiator, the first one, it's legitimately amazing. It's incredible. It looks incredible. It sounds incredible. The story is amazing. The acting is amazing. Everything works together like a well-oiled machine. Gladiator 2, it works, but not as finely oiled or tuned. There's a lot more CGI, and the story's a little more convoluted. Because back then in the year 2000, we didn't have the luxury of all these computers to be able to do all this stuff. We had to do it by hand. Real dudes, real fights, really flipping and getting thrown and stuff. And now in Gladiator 2, minor spoilers, but if you see a trailer, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of animal combat, people versus animals. And it's cool. It's cool, but you can tell the animals are fake. Whereas in the first Gladiator, there is animal combat, but it was real. If you watch the first Gladiator movie, this is real. This is 100% real. I've seen the behind the scenes footage of this. There's a scene in the first Gladiator where Russell Crowe is fighting a dude in the arena, and to throw the fight against Crowe, the Coliseum guards, they pull up a trapdoor, and out comes a tiger to bite him. That's a real tiger. They had real tigers on set. They had real tiger tamers and whatnot, and they trained, air quotes, trained these animals to the best of their ability to jump on people and not bite them. And so in the movie, in Gladiator, when you see Russell Crowe get tackled by a tiger, he is actually, well, someone, I don't think it's him, someone is actually getting tackled by a real life tiger. That's 100% fact. Whereas now in Gladiator 2, there's not that. When there's animals, they're fake. So, whatever. But yeah, so I go to the Mall of America and I see Gladiator 2. Enjoyed the movie. I did. What was interesting though is that I I accidentally, so like most theaters, they have selected seats. You can choose A5, B12, stuff like that. And the people at the concession stand at the cash register still say, "Look at the screen. Top is the screen, like the movie screen. Bottom is the back row. Pick where you want to sit. Pick where you want to sit." And I chose a spot, which I thought was the back row. No, no, it was the front row. It was the front row. So I saw Gladiator 2 in this front row seat. First time I ever done that. And thank God that the B&B theater seats reclined back as far as they did. Because that was the only way possible I was able to see all of it. Like I was almost too close to the screen to where my vision literally couldn't perceive all four corners. Like it was that close. So as I recline back, I'm laying literally flat on my back and I'm able to see it. And so I thought, hey, this is fun. Whatever. Makes for a cool experience, makes for a cool story, which I could tell on the podcast. And I rolled up my sweatshirt behind my head as a pillow, and I laid out my back and I watched Gladiator 2 for 2.5 hours. And it was a good time. I enjoyed myself. And I had popcorn. It was good. And the problem, though, is that that wasn't, I'll probably never choose to do that again. So that wasn't my usual preferred spot to sit to see a movie. But also, the theater popcorn, right as I was walking out of the theater, no, right as the credits came on, I got an upset stomach. As I'm walking out of the theater, I got more of an upset stomach. And again, when you come on the Far Out podcast, you can get personal, you can get deep. So I'm just gonna tell you this stuff right now. I had a very upset stomach walking out of the theater, so I go to the bathroom and I don't have a great time. And then so I finish my business and I'm thinking, okay, I'm feeling better, feeling more calm, cool, collected. Uh, I'm in the Mall of America. I'm gonna get something to eat, something I don't normally have access to around North Dakota. that's readily available to me. So I go to A&W because I love root beer, one of my favorite sodas. And so I get A&W and I get a good greasy burger, greasy fries, and a thing of root beer. And it's great. It tasted amazing. But like out of a cartoon, the second I finish that meal, boom, it's upset stomach again. Literally like a cartoon. You know how when Tom and Jerry, when Tom would eat something and and then seconds later his stomach would go, that was me. That was me. It's where I finished this burger and fries and immediately my stomach goes, and I'm like, crap. And so I go back to the bathroom. I continue to not have a good time. I finish that. And I think, okay, good, calm, cool, collected. I'm in the Mall of America. I'm gonna go to some stores I don't normally have access to in North Dakota. I'm gonna walk around, see what's what. I'm gonna play tourist. I'm gonna spend money. So I start walking around, and I get the feeling I have to go to the bathroom again. Problem though is that the Mall of America is a big place. It's a labyrinth. By some Thanksgiving miracle, I was able to find a bathroom very quickly. Um, and I go back for a third time now to the Mall of America bathroom, and I don't have a good time again. So, by the way, 3 separate trips, 3 separate bathrooms. So my trip to Minneapolis at this point has led to me seeing a movie in the closest seat available, which is not ideal, and me getting an upset stomach 3 times in the span of about 2 hours. So yeah, so there's that. So I yeah, just did not have a great time at the Mall of America, but it's okay. Have no fear, because I think, okay, I'm good. It's out of my system. There's nothing left. Uh, I'm gonna go do something else that I don't normally have access to. And I went to a casino. I went to the Mystic Lakes Casino in Minnesota. Um, I have good memories there, and I have a player card there. I don't go to casinos a lot. I go to them maybe 5 times a year, but because that's my favorite one, whenever I'm in that area of Minnesota, whenever I go to Minneapolis, if I have the time, I try to go to that casino. Um, because I like it there, and I think the layout's cool and whatnot. And yeah, just good memories with friends there. So I go there, um, and I lose money in the blink of an eye. I I I lost money very quickly. I went down $23 like nobody's business, um, and whatnot. Then I was playing blackjack and roulette. Those are my 2 favorite games. And it was like, you take 1 step forward, 2 steps back. So there were times I'd win, but then I wouldn't cash out. I'd keep going, and so again, I ended up losing $23. I had a good time. I did. I had a good time. But then I went to the bar and I got an old fashioned beverage. That's what it's called. It's a mixed drink called an old fashioned, which was fine, which was good. You know, that's what you do when you're an adult and you're sad. You go to the bar. So, um, so I did that, and that was fine. That was good. But then I thought, okay, I'm down money. I just bought an insanely expensive drink. It's time for me to go home. And so go to Mall of America again, see a movie in the way I did not intend. Go to the bathroom 3 times at Mall of America, and then lose money at a casino. Not great for my trip to Minneapolis. However, it ends on a positive note. It really truly does, because I stop at a gas station to get fuel, energy drinks, and snacks, and I buy a scratch off ticket because in North Dakota we don't have those. In Minnesota, they have scratch off tickets. The ones that you get, they're little pieces of cardboard. You scratch them off with a coin. And so I got that just because when in Rome, and I won $5 off of that ticket. And so that was that. I walked out with a $5 bill. I didn't spend that five either. I didn't spend that money on the drinks or the snacks or whatever. So I lost 23, ended up making five in the end. We call that the art of the deal, to quote Trump. So there's that. Um, yeah, and I think that's all I really want to talk about for now. I'm looking at the internal clock here on my laptop, and it says I've been going for over an hour, which is crazy. I feel like I've been here for 20 minutes, but yeah. So I hope people like this. I hope people enjoy this. I hope I hold enough funny stories, or I hope I was articulate enough to where people would enjoy listening to this and want to come back for more, because I want to do more and I intend to do more. So thank you for listening who have tuned in. Um, Again, I don't really know what I want this to be. I don't know if I want it to be a huge platform. I don't know if I want it to be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, bi-monthly. I don't know. Um, no, I do have goals in life though, and again, one of them was to get on broadcasting and radio professionally. And so, if this is even, at the very least, if this is meant as a type of like demo reel for people in the business to look at and say this guy's good, then it's going to serve this purpose really well, I hope. So yeah, so that's a goal of mine, is to eventually become a professional broadcaster. And if I do get big enough to where I could be like Joe Rogan and have on guests and maybe even a little bit of influence and can kind of just cultivate conversation, if I can, make people think differently about things, then amazing. But I'm not going to try to force that. Um, I want that to become natural, if that ever is going to be a thing. So I think I don't aspire to be famous. I don't aspire to have insane wealth. Um, I want to be like Joe Rogan in the sense that when people hear my name, they go, "Oh, he's the guy that does that podcast." Like even if they don't listen to me, I want them to know who I am and what I'm about. I would like to get to that status. Maybe that's too big, but I'll figure that out as I go along the way. If that is too big, I think I'd like to just get to a point to where this is a respectable thing where people hear, you know, the Far Out podcast and they go, "Oh, yeah, I don't listen to it a lot, but when I do, it's good." I don't want it to be like, you know, like another podcast, but hey, it's going to take some time, but again, I appreciate everyone who tuned in. This is my first shot at something like this. I hope it turns out well. I think it did, and that's worth something to me. And I had fun. At the end of the day, that's the most important thing. I had fun. And I hope you had fun too. And so, to quote another movie as I leave you, in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Thank you.